How do you fix income inequality, wealth inequality? They're absolute huge issues facing almost every developed country out there, including America. How do you fix this? Today I'm going to share with you guys exactly how we can fix it. Good day, subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're talking about how do you fix income inequality? How do you fix this wealth inequality in America? There's two different things. There's one is the income side, which is basically people making such low wages and some people making such high wages. There's also the fact that the majority of Americans have little or no net wealth. Meanwhile, the richest have the biggest amount of wealth they've controlled in the United States since before the Great Depression, guys. It's gotten worse and worse over the last few decades. We've heard a lot of talk about it, but you know what we haven't heard? Some fucking solutions. Oh man, I hate when I cuss. Some solutions. We have not heard any solutions. I have some solutions here, some things that would actually work. You know what's the only solution? And there's 4 different points I'm going to bring out. And this first one is, one of the points is not let's tax the rich. Let's just take all their money and leave them with the smallest amount of possible. That's the only solution I've heard. And I used to think, yeah, that's a good solution. I used to be very naive and I used to think, yeah, tax those rich people. Why do they need all that money? Tax them. Let's tax them. And then I kind of got enlightened to some things and I really thought deep about it. And I really thought, how could we really get out of this situation? How have I seen other people get out of this situation? So one of the ways is not just taxing rich, because that won't work. You could just say, okay, let's tax a 90% tax bracket on the richest people. So if you make $10 million, 90% of your money gets taken, you get left with $1 million. You know what's going to happen? Those rich people will either find tax loopholes and get that tax rate way down, or they'll move out of the country. That's exactly what I would do if somebody's told me, if I was making $10 million a year from YouTube and book sales and whatever, right? If I was making $10 million a year and somebody told me, Jeremy, you know what, we're gonna start taxing you at 90% or 80% or 70%, you know what I'd do? Peace, I'm out of here. I mean, I love America. I absolutely love America. But fuck, when you mess with my money, that's when it all ends. Like, that's when it ends. And I'll go move to Singapore where they have no tax. I'll move to Dubai. I don't care. I'll move somewhere else. You're not going to take 70, 80, 90% of my money that I work my ass off for. You're not taking that. I'll leave in a hot second. And so won't a massive amount more of the wealthy people. So you have all those people leaving. That's less tax revenue as a whole in America, right? Because then they just left. They went to another country. They became a citizen of another country that's more competitive because they don't want their money getting taken at the end of the day. And then you have a smaller pool of people that are the job creators, people that are making the money, that are paying the mass amounts of taxes, that are spending mass amounts of money in America, creating jobs and those kinds of things, guys. So that's exactly why that plan would never work. Let's just super tax the rich. Let's take, a whole bunch of their money. It's not going to work at the end of the day, because if they got a lot of wealth, they're smarter than that and they'll figure out a way to get out of that, or they'll just move out of the country. As simple as that. So that's definitely not one of the ways, in my opinion, the best way at all. The first way, which is number 2 point, entrepreneurship. Why does entrepreneurship matter so much? Entrepreneurship is absolutely a way of taking away wealth from some of the superior rich people and basically bringing wealth to yourself. In my opinion, it's the best way to get out of a hard situation in life by far. It's by far the best. Some people say, oh, it's education, it's going to college, getting a job. No. It's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship's the one thing that will give you a level playing field, or as close to a level playing field as possible. And it doesn't matter where you came from, how poor you are, whatever. Entrepreneurship is that way. Think about it this way, right? I started my photo and video, marketing company for real estate. I started that in late 2015 or early 2016, right? Think about it this way. Let's say I do $30,000 in revenue from that business. I wish I focused on it more, but I don't really have time because the YouTube thing, and that's another story, is a much bigger platform for me and will give me much better chance to earn a lot of money, right? But let's say I make $30,000 a year, right? My biggest competitor in that space is a big company who will remain unnamed, but they're a big company. They're in several markets, Colorado, here in Las Vegas, a few other markets, right? Somebody owns that big company. They're making a lot of money. They're probably making $1 million a year, $2 million, $3 million, maybe $5 million a year. I come in here and I take $30,000 of business away from them. So then all of a sudden that CEO that owns that company that's maybe making $1 million of profit a year is now making $30,000 less a year. And I know I take direct customers away from them because a lot of my customers say, I used to use such and such company, now I use you. You provide better service, better quality of product, and you're cheaper. So I go with you now. Let's say there's 10 more Jeremys out there. And now all of a sudden 10 times 30,000, everybody's doing 30,000 in revenue. Let's just assume that number. Then all of a sudden we're taking $300,000 away from that person that was making $1 million. Now they're making $700,000 a year. Entrepreneurship is absolutely the way to beat the whole income inequality. The reason you have so much income inequality in America is you have too many companies completely dominating their spaces, which makes a massive amount of wealth and income go to the top people running that company or owning that company because there's not enough competition. When there's a lot of competition, guess what? Everybody's income goes down. And who's affected by that the most? The people at the top, because they have a lot of people coming in here at the bottom here, guys. So when you have a situation where not a lot of people are interested in entrepreneurship, becoming entrepreneurs, and competing with some of these big corporations or maybe smaller corporations, when you have that situation, you have a lot more people that are employees of these companies. Instead of trying to beat them, they just join them. And basically, every person you take out of the market and becomes an entrepreneur, it's one less employee that the companies have to hire, right? So think about it this way. Everything's supply and demand in this world. The whole economy is run on supply and demand. When you have a lot of supply of employees, then and employers maybe don't have as strong a demand, then they can pay really low wages for these employees. They can because they're a dime a dozen. But guess what? When those employees leave, they start their own businesses to compete with those companies and they don't work for them. Guess what the companies have to do? There's a much smaller supply of employees to even hire out there. So those companies, they have to pay much higher wages because they're trying to get, and maybe there's not as good a quality talent out there now at this point. So they have to pay much higher wages, which then takes out of the whole, the owner's pockets, right? And goes into the employees. So entrepreneurship is absolutely, in my opinion, without a doubt, the strongest and best way to help manage this whole income inequality, the whole wealth inequality in America, guys, because you basically just have a lot of people that are just want to be employees, not enough people that want to open up businesses, start businesses to actually compete out there and take business away from those guys and gals that are making millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, have $100 million and $1 billion valuations on these companies, guys. You start more businesses, you're going to eat into that. Number three is people deciding, this is a personal finance one, people deciding to take out less debt and invest more money, basically, at the end of the day. What you have is you have a situation here in America, specifically I'm talking about, and this is most of the developed world, where people take out massive amounts of debt where they don't even have a dollar to their name. Like, they're negative because they might only have $30,000 in the bank. They open up a $250,000 mortgage, so they're now $220,000 more in debt than they have actual equity. So they have no money to invest because they're trying to pay off that expensive car, that expensive home, those student loans, all this stuff, guys. And guess what? That leaves way less money, if any money at all, to invest and actually create them wealth. So they're just working like a slave mentality of, okay, let me take out all this debt. Let me just try to, pay off this debt, which is never going to get paid off. You're going to be paying it off for the rest of your life till you're an old person, right? And meanwhile, they could be investing that money if they wouldn't have taken out all that debt and paid all the interest, which is just helping the people at the top that own those stocks or own those banks or whatever, guys. So if they invested more in things and took out less debt, then they would have a situation where they're in the position of power instead of a position of weakness, which is when they owe so much debt and they don't have any money to invest at the end of the day. If you want to make money in this world, if you want to build wealth, you got to invest money, whether it be in real estate or stocks or whatever. That's the way you build wealth. Not by paying off that house for the next 800 years or paying off that expensive car that costs you $500, $600 in payments a month and takes out money you could be spending over here and investing, guys. So people taking out less debt and just investing more, it would do dramatic things to the whole income inequality type situation, guys, and wealth inequality. And number four, the last one here, number four is people need to stop being so complacent at their work. What we have is a situation where a lot of people like to complain about their job. A lot of people like to say, oh, I never get raises, or I only get 2% raise a year, or, I'm sick of this job, but they don't ever do anything. They don't do shit about it. They don't do anything. They're just, okay, well, I guess that's the way it goes. And they don't try to get a job at a better workplace. They aren't really applying at jobs. They aren't really trying to start a business on the side that they can maybe build into a business where they can actually quit their job and start focusing on that business full time. They're not willing to ever take a step back. And sometimes they can't take a step back and leave a job to go try to be an entrepreneur and try to make a business work because of number 3, they have so much damn debt that they have to pay constantly, and they don't want to be seen as a failure and, oh, my car got repossessed and my house got repossessed and this got repossessed because I own all this debt. They don't want to be seen as a failure in public socially because that's how people will view it. Wow, that person's a loser. They got this repossessed and that. So they just keep working at this job, and being complacent instead of trying to go out there and get a better job or start a business and be an entrepreneur. They just want to complain about it and my job's shit, and I never get raises or hardly ever get a big raise at all. It's like little teeny raises here and there. And that's just the way it works. And people are just very complacent instead of going out there and grinding, and they have too much debt, and it's just a mess, guys. So you really want to fix income inequality, wealth inequality, start businesses, entrepreneurship, take out less debt, invest more money. And if you do work a job, don't be complacent at that. Go get a better job. Fight for your money at the end of the day, and put yourself in a position of power. And then we'll start getting that whole, okay, the 1%, they own this much wealth, where in the bottom, 99%, we own this amount, to all of a sudden, it's starting to get more in balance and those kinds of things, guys. So that's a way to do it. And will it happen? Absolutely not. It will never happen because people are fucking lazy. Bye.